Do we want to pick camps first and then flip and figure out going first?
That's fine with me.
Or do you want to figure out who's going first and then pick camps? I usually like.
Okay. Here we are once again at the final table for a Build Phase Radlands event. Facing off this time. Oh, I got these nameplates backwards. Facing off this time, we got RevMaverick versus University of Radlands. So the players are getting shuffled up right now. They are going to select camps. The camp selection we use for this event is pretty typical to anybody who's played Radlands before. They're going to draw 6 camps, they're going to choose 3, and then reveal them to each other simultaneously. This does create the possibility of something that wouldn't happen in a typical game of Radlands where both players are drawing from the same camp deck. In this setup, since there are both players drawing from their own decks, there is a possibility of the same camp showing up on both sides of this event. Or both sides of this match, I should say. Man, you saw University throw that first one down so fast. So I'm guessing once these flip, that's going to be something like an Oasis, a mercenary camp, supply depot. These are all kind of like snap pick style. So it looks like all 3 are already locked in on one side. We got Maverick over here kind of perusing his options. So I guess while he's figuring that out, I want to say thanks to all the players who participated in this event. Of course, any event that we put on can't function without the players. So these Reverend Maverick here and University of Radlands are the ones who made it to our final table here. And of course, congratulations to both of our finalists, but thank you to all of our participants. Let's unmute here as
Line.
they.
Water.
All right. Looks like University's
I
good choice
will.
of going first here.
I'll let you go first.
All right.
Yeah, that's fair. A lot of times,
I
first
have the
turn
reactor.
advantage. Okay,
Gives me
reactor.
1 card for 2 water. Destroy this card and all people. The resonator also gives me 1 card, and for 2 water, destroy an unprotected damaged card. And the Oasis. For 1 card, if I have no people in this column, the people cost 1 less water to play.
Nice.
I feel good about locking down the Oasis.
3 cards to start. All right, so for mine, I've got an outpost. That'll give me 1 card to start. 2 water raid, 2 water restore. Construction yard, 2 cards to start. 1 water. As long as this card isn't damaged, I can flip it over, destroy this card, and undamage a different camp. And then the last one is catapult for 0. 0 starting cards. 2 water can destroy any card, but then I have to destroy one of my people.
All right. And you also get 3. Nice.
And we got
So 3 cards for each of our
same
starting
cards to
players
start.
based
Yep, no
on
excuses.
camp draw.
All right.
This does put Maverick in the position
Dang.
of only getting 1 water
So I guess I'm
on
going
the
first.
initial turn.
We'll do 1 water, no events, and a card.
So if there's ever a turn where you're going to be forced to go first, a turn where you have the Oasis in play, kind of offsets some of the drawbacks that you run into when you start the turn with only 1/3 of your typical water
We'll
supply.
play a looter for free,
And here we see a looter come down for
and
free
we'll
on the
grab the
Oasis.
silo.
Nice.
We'll end turn with 3 cards and silo in hand.
So looter is
No
typically a
events.
1-cost
Look for
character.
turn.
However, because of the Oasis, Maverick's able to play it for free, and this is deal a damage, pay 2, deal a damage, and if it hits a camp, he gets to draw. So he's able to develop, bank some water. Not the strongest first turn.
Looter.
University responding with a famine, junking the famine to damage that looter right away. Which is kind of the name of the game in Radlands. You really can't allow your opponent to get value out of the people that they recruit.
Play a
So
gunner for 1.
all right, the gunner is a little bit better of a tool when there are multiple targets. You can pay 2 and injure a
Play a
bunch of
muse for
unprotected
1.
enemies.
Then I will grab the water silo and pass. I've got 1 card and the water silo in my hand.
Okay, now that's an interesting formation there from University. Putting the Muse up front. Muse is one of those cards that if it sticks around, it can really define games by generating a ton of extra resources for the opponent. However, University's opting to use the Muse to protect the gunner. Now, this puts Maverick under some pressure because he's not going to be able to go wide on the board because the gunner's 2 cost is not a cheap power, but for a relatively cheap power, uh, he could put damage on any cards that Maverick puts out. So really his only safe play to be safe from the gunner is to hide behind the looter. So that high ground entering the event track a moment ago, it's one of those cards that the more characters you have in play, the more value you get out of it. This early in the game,
3 water will play Miss Blaze.
oh wow. Okay, so Carly Blaze comes down,
Cash
hiding
in
behind
the
the
water
looter to
silo
protect
for an
her from
extra
the gunner.
water to use her ability to injure the Muse.
So Carly creates a situation, kind of a cloud effect on all cards, where she comes into play
And
ready,
I'll
and
end
so
turn
does
with
everybody
2 cards in
else
hand. You're good.
All right,
on
no
your side.
events. Card for turn. Like the water there.
So the high ground will give Maverick the ability to rearrange his people next turn, although I don't think that's why that's in play. I think it's there because it's going to create all the cards being unprotected. If Carly survives
We're going
this
to
turn,
damage
she's going to be
Carly
able to
Blaze
take
with
a hit on
Catapult.
that
I'm going to
gunner.
take out Muse to do that.
Can't say I'm surprised to see a catapult activation dealing with the Carly Blaze. Anytime your opponent commits to paying the high cost of one of these legendary cards, if you have the ability to get rid of it, you get rid of it. Now, Maverick may need to be a little careful here. He's got 1 column completely
Play a
filled with
Mimic for
Deadwood.
1.
It's going to require healing to get those cards
I'm going
stood
to
up to
hold
be able
out
to
to
get
get the
value out of
Raiders in
them.
spot 2, and I'll pass. I've only got the water silo in the Radlands, as you'd like to call
There.
that.
In the
Playing for the
Okay, so
top.
Radlands.
University is a little vulnerable here with
When
only
high
the water
ground goes
silo in
off, I can
hand.
rearrange my people. I think we'll free up the Oasis.
Yeah, freeing up the Oasis is a smart call here for Maverick. I also like keeping the looter still in front of
And
Carly.
your
That gunner is
cards
still
are
potentially a
unprotected.
threat.
Water and a card.
I've got to think Maverick's got something here that's going to let him punch through and injure that gunner, though. If he can't, he's going to have a hard time developing on this board. So the ideal turn here for Maverick is going to be some kind of a play like putting repair bot into the Oasis column for free, standing Carly up, some kind of
Play
junk
2 for a
to.
strafe.
Yikes. So strafe is
Ouch.
going to injure. Does it injure both? I thought it was only unprotected. Maybe I'm
Play
remembering the card wrong.
Doomsayer for free.
Yeah. Strafe injures all unprotected
Drive back the
enemies. Now, oh,
Raiders there. Yeah.
it does hit
And
all of University's characters because they're all unprotected this turn due to the cloud effect from the high ground. So that was a pretty solid 2-turn play that Maverick pulled off there to kind of neutralize the threat that University has presented. And now, I don't know how many cards Maverick still has in his hand.
do 1 for a scout. And we'll end turn there with no cards in hand.
No cards in hand. Okay, so both
I'm in there
players
with you.
are in top deck mode.
All right, Raiders will move up to 2. That makes you feel a little better.
Yeah.
Definitely
1
a lot more power on Maverick's side of the board.
card.
That Doomsayer pushing the Raiders back was a pretty clutch play. Overall, I think you've got to feel a little bit more confident if you're on the Maverick side of this equation with how much is on the board. But this can be flipped really quickly. If University top decks his way into Truce or his own strafe or what is that,
We'll
Radiation?
spend 2 to draw a card.
Yeah,
We'll
Famine
junk a strafe for
is
the
another
draw
potential
card
answer
ability
to
on the card there.
board. Now he had Strafe, which could have eliminated the looter and injured.
Let's junk the water silo for another water.
I gotta feel like his priority right now is trying to get to
Catapult's
that
going to hit
Doomsayer.
the Doomsayer, and I will
Yeah.
destroy the mimic. Do that.
Now that's an expensive hit for
I will
University
pass.
here,
I've got 2 cards in my hand.
but he kind of had to do it.
All right, no events.
With the Doomsayer catching that raid
Order and a card.
as soon as it came out and pushing it back to 3, that could have potentially been multiple turns of getting 1 cost deal of damage, because as long as the opponent has an event on the event track, the Doomsayer has pay 1 water, deal of damage, which is the most. I mean, that's just excellent economy. Doesn't get much better than that in this game. I guess pay 1, destroy is better, but there's only so many Mulgars staying in the deck.
1 to get the Raiders going.
Okay, so a lot of deadwood on Maverick's board, but the Scout is able to get the raid going.
2 to draw.
Now, if I can't heal here, if there's no way to stand any of my guys up,
And we'll end turn with 2 cards in hand. Here you go.
All right, we'll push Raiders back up to 1. A card for turn. Collect some water.
so this does kind
We'll
of
junk
deceptively
a
look
radiation to push the Raiders through. Let you damage whatever camp you'd like.
I'll hit the react.
interesting. So there was one of those board clear cards that I named when I was ticking off the potential answers that University could top deck his way into. And rather than playing Radiation to try to eliminate and wipe a bunch of this stuff off of Maverick's board, he opted to push the raid through. Now, the positive for this, if you're on University
Then
side
2
of
to
things,
draw a card.
is having all these injured characters. Injured people can't use their abilities. So as long as they stay injured, that clogs Maverick's board up, and he's not going to be able to play more things.
We'll spend 1 water to do an interrogate.
Okay, digging
I'll
for
draw
answers
4,
here.
then discard 3.
I mean, if he wasn't happy with Radiation, I gotta think he's looking for Famine, but there's only 1 left, because on turn 1 he used Famine to injure the looter. So there's only 1 more copy
We'll
of it
discard
in the
a
deck.
Mulgar Stang, Mr. Mustang there.
Mustang.
Discard a rabble rouser.
And all these discards are tied to the interrogation play. These are not being junked here. So University's got to start developing himself. While the catapult is a really
Discard a
strong
rescue
camp,
team.
it can put
Keep
you in
this
a
card here.
position where your board is never really able to grow because you're killing people every turn to deal that damage. Maverick does have on his camps the ability to clear
And
all those
let's
people
see.
out of the way. It's pretty costly if he has to actually commit the reactor to get the deadwood out of there. And as long as the scout's standing up
Discard a high
pushing board
ground
through,
for
I
an
don't think
extra
he's going to
water.
want to.
And then we'll play a scout behind the gunner. I'll pass. I've got one card in my hand. Over to
Okay.
you.
So at this point, I think we've got a pretty good idea of what
Alright,
University's path to victory
Raiders
is here.
goes
He wants
up.
to be able to push raids through and leave Maverick's board
Play
clogged up with a bunch
water,
of
hit
characters that are
card.
injured and cannot do anything. I think if I'm in Maverick's side of the board, I really want to pull my scout behind that Doomsayer. Like, once you play a person to a camp, you can't move them to another column. You can't move them to another camp, but I'm pretty sure you can rearrange people within a camp. And that Doomsayer is not really doing anything injured. Now, I guess that calculus changes if Maverick has some kind of healing. Having that Doomsayer there does.
Set the Raiders off.
Okay. So he's going to push the raid through with the scout.
Mm-hmm.
Have to imagine University's
Hit the
going to.
catapult.
Yeah. Interesting. So while that is arguably one of the most valuable camps he's got, it is the one that's double protected, so it kind of makes sense that he would damage that camp.
Do one for an interrogate.
Yeah, I think this is
Draw 4
what Maverick
cards,
wants to
discard
see.
3 of them.
Start churning through the cards as well. Both players got down to no cards in hand, and now they've both thrown down interrogate to try to build that card advantage back up. There was a pretty strong early push from both players, and overall, I think Maverick probably came out a little bit ahead in that. Definitely has more things to the board. Yes, a ton of them are injured. Uh, both players have a single damaged camp at this point, so we're kind of even on the scoreboards with regard to the ultimate
I'll
victory condition of
discard
destroying
an
the camps.
Uprising, Famine, and an Exterminator.
If you're Maverick, what you really want to see here is bombardment, so you can junk it and get Carly stood up. You want a heal bot.
Let's
Heal
get
bot
a
would be
Silo.
huge here.
I'll end turn with 3 cards and Silo in hand.
Okay, building the grip back up on Maverick's
No
side of the
events.
board.
Card for turn. Collect some water there. Play a wounded soldier for 1. When he enters play, get to draw a card. And he's damaged. We're going to spend 2 on the catapult to hit your reactor to destroy it. And now we'll discard or destroy the wounded soldier to do that.
Just enough. University again is just kind of scraping by with developing just enough to the board to be able to fund that catapult and getting value out of it.
I'll pass. I've got 2 cards in my hand.
No events. Water and a card.
Okay. So far on Maverick's side of the board.
Do 1 for an interrogate.
Oh, jeez. Okay, so that's the second interrogate coming out of Maverick's deck. I gotta think he's digging for Healbot. Sorry, I think the official name of the card is Repairbot. I just call it Healbot because I'm
Discard a Stray,
a lapsed Hearthstone player.
Muse, Banish. Chunk of Napalm to restore Carly.
Well, there's one heal. Now we gotta think, is that water gonna go to the scout to move a raid? Or is it gonna go to the scout to... Oh, I guess it has to. Carly isn't the one that gives other people. Sorry, I confused Carly with Carlo for a minute. Carlo. Argo. That's who I'm thinking of. Yes. So I imagine if you're on university side of this,
Chunk of Gunner
you
to
got to be thinking,
restore
uh,
Looter.
should I have killed Carly last turn? Uh-oh. And now you're double thinking that. And this is the risk with Radlands. If you push hard to get early damage on camps, you can sometimes end up in a position where you're a little bit overextended and your opponent is able to kind of stabilize and turn that corner on you.
We can get the Raiders going.
Now, we haven't seen any Doomsayers from University at this point, so it is possible that Maverick starting the raid could feed into giving University even more damage potential. Problem is, even if he recruits the Doomsayer, if his plan A is to keep using the catapult, without one of those camps like the arcade or some kind of punk generator or a rabble rouser in play, it's really hard
Play,
to keep up.
let's see, 1 for Vigilante.
Wow, this board's getting real crowded.
He enters play ready for Carly's ability.
That
Chunk
is
of
true.
Silo to get an extra water to use his ability to take out the gunner.
Okay, so that, what was that, turn 2 recruited gunner from University finally dies, exposing his scout.
And I'm going to end my turn with 1 card in hand. Your go.
I
This
know
is a
Vince
little wild to see
for
6 people
turn.
in play and 5 of them
Some
are on
water.
one side of the board.
The firepower you got over there.
Yep, loading it up.
See extra cargo there in the chat. Good to see you.
Never safe in the Radlands, though. I don't think anybody is.
It's been pretty back and forth so far.
I'm going to try to make it not be. Let's see.
I figured you would.
So at this point, I think we've seen University get rid of both copies of Famine, 1 Strife, and 1 Radiation. So there could be a couple of truces, but a lot of the board clears, like a lot of the cards that are would allow him back into this game to kind of reset the board and start
Junk
over.
of Famine to hit the looter.
Oh, okay, maybe we didn't see both Famines. I don't think you even feel good about truce here. Like if you truce this board and you feed 5 cards back into your
Play a
opponent's
repair
grid,
bot for
that's
1
crazy.
to restore the catapult.
Okay, back up to full strength on University's camp rack here.
We're going to spend 2 on the catapult to hit Carly Blaze, and I will destroy the repair bot to do that.
Man, this is so tight. So University keeps getting value out of that catapult every turn, and it's hit big value, big payoff targets every single time. Catapult single-handedly
And then
responsible. Well, no, I think it was a raid plus catapult was what took out that camp. But how long can he sustain this? Like if you're putting 2 water into the catapult, plus you have to recruit a character, plus in this case, throwing down another card to heal, like
I will junk a vigilante to get the raiders in spot 2.
that's taxing the hand very
I'll
heavily.
pass. I've got no cards in hand.
Okay, back down to 0 cards in the
Alright.
grip for University. I think
Raiders
Maverick said he
goes
had
up.
3 at the end of last turn.
Collect my water. Draw a card.
Now, of course, having the most cards isn't how you win this game. You need more than just the cards, but cards equals options. And we do have to be, or Maverick does have to be careful here not to let his board get completely clogged with dead stuff. He has lost access to the reactor, so his built-in ability to clear away a bunch of damaged people that aren't doing anything is now gone. So sometimes you can end up in the situation where you just can't play anything, uh, and you're looking for those truces or those famines to try to clear your own injured people out of the way while your opponent. Because if that happens, if that lock gets set up and Maverick has injured people in all his spots and can't do anything, well, then at that point, the pressure on University to just play a dude and use the catapult every turn, that no longer seems like a dangerous spot to be in if Maverick isn't developing threats to the board. And he's got a lot of injured people out there. Healing the Doomsayer would feel pretty good at this
Ooh.
point. Got to imagine
Vigilante to hit the scout.
that makes sense. If you're rooting for Maverick, I think you gotta hope he's got something to throw down in front of that Vigilante, but
Set the Raiders off.
gotta be careful because if you throw down something out there that gets injured, that's one more of you. You only have 6 people slots, and
At the
many of them are
construction
full.
yard.
It does make sense to hit the construction yard there out of the available options. That's certainly the least valuable one.
We'll grab the silo. I got 2 cards in the silo. Your go.
All right. Raiders move up. Card for turn. Select the water over there. We'll spend 2 to draw a card.
You gotta feel good about that if you're on Maverick's side of the board. When the first thing your opponent does is
The
throw
last
water
water will
digging
play a
deep into their
Vanguard.
deck, what you can hear
A
there
little
is they might as well say, I don't
punk
have any
friend to
good
come with
cards.
them. And we'll pass. I've got 1 card in my hand.
Although if he top decked into that Vanguard, I have to imagine if he had the Vanguard in hand at the start of turn, he would have just
Water
played
and a
it
card.
and not spent the 2
No
to
events.
draw. So I'm thinking he probably top decked the Vanguard there. That ability to pay for 1 body and get 2
Trying
bodies
not
at
to
this
get
point in the
pierce
game is
locked, if you know what I
very
mean.
important for
Yeah.
very important for University here.
I know what you mean. It's kind of why I wanted to take out your reactor.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there we have it. University just flat out said he targeted the reactor so he could try to lock the board up with injured people. So now, if you weren't on alert before, like Maverick has got to be very judicious in how he uses that 6th slot because he knows exactly what his opponent's thinking. Got to imagine you want to eliminate the punk this turn because that's just catapult fuel. Probably want to get through the scout as well. I mean, ideally, you want to make it so the
Chunk a
Vanguard
wounded
can't be
soldier
used.
to hit the punk.
Okay. And he's still got water that could be put on Vigilante to
It's
clear the scout, but then he still needs one more damage.
even up the game a little bit. Do a resonator to take out the construction yard.
Nice.
Oh, okay. Now that is a confident move from Maverick. He says, "You've given me the breathing room to take one of your camps off the board." So now both players at this point essentially have 2 points locked in. When a camp is damaged, it can be healed out of it, but once it's destroyed, there's no going back. And this is one of the cool things about Radlands is you have to make these choices between, is now the time that I devote resources to killing that camp, or do I use the resonator to clear the scout and then vigilante the vanguard and play a little more defensively? Maverick opted for the more aggressive play here, knowing that he's under pressure of getting his board locked out with injured people. Makes me wonder what the composition of his hand is right now. Truce would be brilliant. You know, you finally let University think that he's got you locked out, uh, completely locked down with a bunch of dead wood, and he's just going to catapult his way to victory, and then truce it all away.
Sorry, I'm thinking this one through. Probably
You're good.
overthinking it.
While that might feel good
Um,
to
hmm.
rob your opponent of their stated win condition, with how many characters are in play, I definitely think Maverick would prefer to draw healing than to truce this all the way and have to start rebuilding again, particularly with that Kali Blaze. Once you stick a legendary character, you don't want to put them back in your hand unless you absolutely have to. Now, if you're rooting for the University of Radlands side of things, it's got to feel good to see stuff like the turn one looter that's just been injured and taken up a slot doing nothing the entire game. The Doomsayer who came down and has sat through turn after turn of raids being on the event track and not been able to get a single damage in, just sitting there taking up a spot. So while the board does look very much in favor of Maverick
Chunk a
here,
repair bot to hit your scout,
oh wow,
and Vanguard will clip the.
holy
I
smokes.
mean, Vigilante will hit the Vanguard,
Okay, so Maverick woke up this turn and chose violence.
and I'm going to end turn with one card in the silo in hand. Here you go.
That is very surprising to
All
me.
right, events. So Raiders will resolve. Card for turn.
I imagine we see the resonator
Select some
damage
water.
here.
Let's hit the resonator.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's a tough
actually,
call because there's more bodies in
let's hit
front of
the
the
Oasis.
Oasis, even though the
Sure.
Oasis is overall a better card. Okay.
A Junk and Uprising to hit the Vigilante.
So Maverick went real aggressive.
2 on the Catapult to take out the Oasis. And I'll get rid of the Vanguard, destroy the Vanguard to do that.
Wow. Okay, University going down to no cards in play. And I think he's only got one in hand.
We'll junk a Banish to get the Raiders back out. And then grab the water silo with my last water, and I'll pass over to you. I've got just the water silo in my hand.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
All right.
So
No
University
events,
here is also
water
choosing
card.
a very aggressive tack. He's hitting these camps now. I would have thought in Maverick's shoes, oh, the heal bot's exactly what I need. Let's get that down. I can protect one of my damage dealers. I can stand up Carly. But no, Maverick opted to push to chip away at the board. And this, to be clear, this play is looking like it may pay off here because if he can play something that can actually deal damage back there behind that vigilante, University is going to have a really hard time punching through now that his board's been reduced to 0. The catapult's dead weight unless he top decks the ability to get more characters in play. He's already used 1 Vanguard. The second Vanguard would, of course, be an ideal top deck. You play the Vanguard, catapult the punk away, and now you've got a body, plus you dealt some damage. Looking at this from Maverick's perspective, this has got to be frustrating. Like, I've got all these people out here. I've got clearly a commanding board presence, and yet I'm now down on the scoreboard with 2 destroyed camps. I mean, do you prioritize developing damage or trying to stand up your people and trying to be defensive? At this point, I feel like you probably have to be defensive, but we know his headspace is, based on last turn anyway, his headspace is in a much more aggressive tack. A mutant might be a good play here, although nothing's going to be safe from the catapult depending upon what University top decks.
We'll junk the silo to get an extra water.
That's going to be Mulger Stang.
And play 4 for a Mustang.
Oh my goodness. All right. So, holy cow. All right. So, if you're on the University side of things, you absolutely have to top deck a character
And
that's
we'll
cheap enough that you can play the character and pay for the catapult.
junk us. Ooh.
Otherwise, the catapult's
Hmm.
gone this turn. And then once the catapult's gone, it's game over. Well, I say that under the assumption that if the catapult goes University, because there's nothing else developed on his side of the board, he's not going to have the ability
I
to
don't think it
put
matters.
damage at will elsewhere. So how is he going to
Uh,
get to Mulger? That's going to require at least 2 points of damage to shoot through the vigilante. If he develops a sniper this turn, it's too late. And that's the other thing.
yeah,
There's been
let's
a lot of
junk
cards drawn
a
out of these
sniper
decks.
to restore the vigilante. And your go. I got no cards in hand.
Our Raiders will move up.
Probably the right call, getting
Card
that
for
vigilante
turn.
stood up to extra protect Mulger. If the play ends up being to try to get
Like
at
my
Mulger
water
with the
there.
catapult, it's not going to matter. But if he can't get the catapult, if he
I'll
can't
play a scout
catapult
for
at
1.
Mulger right now, yeah, okay. And then it's got to be catapult into Mulger here. There's no other
2
play.
on the catapult and destroying the scout to hit Mr. Mulger Stang. Then I'll pass.
Doesn't feel good, but
Just
it's
the
the only
water
way.
silo in my hand.
Oh, you hit Mulger saying, okay.
Yes, please. Yeah. Yes. Take him out.
Are you
A
sure?
little bit of wishful thinking
Yes.
there on Rick's part.
Let's see.
Then I'll pass.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Okay.
Man, what do you do with all this?
No events, water in a card.
Gotta hope he sees a bombardment, or what other cards give you the heal?
Junk a cult leader to draw.
Gunner, I think a scout.
We'll bring
Napalm.
the Raiders out.
Scout will want to stand up Mulger or potentially Carly here. Probably Mulger. Yeah, definitely Mulger. What am I saying?
2 to draw.
Oh, all right. If you're on the University side of things, you got to feel good seeing that card draw.
And it's your go. I got 2 cards in hand.
Raiders will resolve. A card for turn.
Okay, all comes down to this.
Select a water. We'll play an exterminator for 1.
There it is. That's
Then
game.
2 water. Destroying exterminator. We will the resonator.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Game.
So that's a game that shows off the power of
catapult.
the catapult.
The catapult.
Anything that lets you get
Uh,
around protection in this game is so
one of my
big.
favorites.
Oh yeah. It was the MVP, and I was
I like
a little bit.
your go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I should have kept my sniper for the restore. I don't know why I didn't. For
Mulger.
Mustang, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, moving your using high ground to make the Oasis free was a pretty slick move.
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, I had the high ground. What was it? High ground strafe combo. And I was like, wait. It was kind of after the fact, so it wasn't. I was like,
Yeah,
wait,
you
I can
played the
move this,
strafe
and
after that, I think.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was cool, but ooh, good game, man. That
I think
shows
you'll
right
get
there. Oh,
to.
go ahead.
I think you'll get to pick who goes first.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
How
Those are
Mr.
initiative.
Ben's done it in past tournaments. Recollect if I remember right.
Confirm that with the players here real quick.
What does that show you though? You're getting ready to say something. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, you're
Yeah,
good. I was
you're
just
correct. Loser will pick initiative for this game, and if game 3 happens, same.
gotcha. So would I pick before or after we look at the camps? Yeah,
You looked at camps first in game 1, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
We picked him.
I'd do it the same
Stick to
then
that.
in all 3.
Okay,
Yeah, just to make it uniform.
gotcha.
Did I mute myself again? Yes. Okay. Worried for no reason. Okay, so we've got University going up 1 game to none in the beginning of our series here. Yeah, I agree with the chat. Power camp, the catapult. And to be fair, it's not like Maverick was without a hot camp draw himself. The Oasis is one of those camps that I would put up in the higher tier of useful. And while clearly in that game Catapult was MVP, it's not like Maverick was fully counted out with like a bunch of dud camps or something. Yeah, those camps that let you get around targeting rules. Oof.
All right. I think I will go first.
Ooh, okay.
You ready?
Makes me wonder what
Sir,
his
yeah.
camp comp
All
is.
right.
Let's see.
Make the best punk win. I got the parachute base. For 0 water, play a person, use their ability. You must pay for both, then damage them. Gives me 1 card. The Adrenaline Lab. Gives me 1 card. Use the ability of one of your damaged people. You must still pay, then destroy it. And the Transplant Lab. For 1 water, if I put 2 or more people into play, I can do a restore. And that gives me 2 cards.
So a lot of people
That is some
interaction.
good comboing right there. I have a scavenger camp. 1 card to start. 2 water can send out the raiders. Turn the Raiders resolve. I can do a restore for 1 water. Nest of Spies gives me 1 card for 1 water. If I played 2 or more people in that turn, I can deal a damage. So I have a Transplant Lab for 2 cards. Like you said, 1 water, played 2 people, do a restore. So we've got a shared camp this game. And we both have 4 cards again. Or the same cards again.
You can't get much more fair than that.
Right. Wouldn't think so.
Okay.
Looking for the nest.
So there's definitely going to be a little more pressure on university side of things to satisfy that 2
I like
people
how we both
threshold.
put Transplant Lab as last too. There you go. It's great minds.
Little surprise.
Little surprise.
University has
All
more
right.
overall
No
healing
events, 1 water, and a card. Good luck, sir.
Look.
and the ability to throw raids out there, which can be difficult to interact with if you don't hit more or less exactly a Doomsayer or some kind of healing. So parachute base giving you the ability to throw people out and use them. I kind of see again the aggressive stance that Maverick has chosen for this series,
I think I'm gonna junk a cult leader to draw.
as one does. So the question is, do you want to develop here or just silo up and get ready for big turn 2? It looks like Maverick's got a card kind of hovering there near the edge of the board that he's thinking about playing.
Play a mutant for 1.
Okay, mutant coming
We'll
out.
parachute base him in
Oh, interesting.
and hit your Transplant Lab.
Oh, I see
And
where
then
this is
I'll use
going.
Adrenaline Lab to use the ability of one of my damaged people and take out your Transplant Lab.
Wow. Okay,
And
that's a
that
really big
destroys
turn
me.
1. So I will admit, as I
And
saw that
I'll
play
end turn with
unfolding,
4 cards in hand.
I thought to myself, wow, you're going to commit the mutant with the parachute base this early. You're not going to get the healing half of it. But chaining parachute base into Adrenaline Lab with the mutant is 3 0 water abilities that allowed him to straight up kill a camp on turn 1. That is masterful play from Maverick. That's why you're at the final table right there. That was awesome.
You're fine.
So it always feels good to be the person who's up in the series.
Wow. Pick out the
Takes a little
old
bit of the pressure
Transplant
off,
Lab. Told you that was
and
a good combo.
and
Parachute base, Adrenaline Lab. Sheesh.
as confident as University was going into this game, uh, he's got to feel a little rattled here, I think.
I don't think I ever
I have
have
to now. Let's see.
He, I agree with your emoji there in the chat, Cargo. That was a pretty mind blowing play. Both players even kind of took a moment there to, what? Unbelievable.
Right.
I can't say I'm surprised to see University here
Bring out a
kind of
gunner for
think things
1.
over. That's the kind of move that if you're not careful, you get yourself tilted and you start making mistakes. Now, University's been in these high pressure situations before. He's seen the final
Attempt to
table in a
strafe
BPR.
or to
He
draw a card.
definitely can dig out of this hole. But you got to make sure making the best choices possible and not reacting plain hasty,
Bring out a
reacting
mimic
emotionally.
for 1.
Interesting, choosing to protect the camp instead of use the people to protect each other. This does leave him vulnerable to things like Stray for potentially an opposing gunner. Although at this point, Maverick has no people developed, so if he tries to develop wide, University's gunner is there to clear them. And the gunner, does he cost 2? I'm gonna have to look him up real quick.
Grab
He
the
does
water
cost 2.
silo. I'll pass.
Okay.
I've got 3 cards.
So keep in mind what happened there. University just
Alright.
essentially
No events, water and a card.
he just cocked his pistol, so to speak. The gunner plus the mimic copying the gunner can completely be a board wipe on Maverick here. And University is showing the 4 water because he picked up the water silo at the end of the turn. Now, he might not want to have to pull that off. He might not want to commit to that play next
2
turn.
for a strafe.
But if you're on the Mavericks, oh, the strafe. Immediately punished. Wow, okay.
And grab the silo.
Apparently, Maverick's like, I can leave you with a mess of broken, injured dudes too.
In turn with 4 cards and the silo in hand. Your go.
Perfect. All right, 4 cards in the silo. No events. Card for turn. Grab some water here.
Now, that last turn,
Taking out my people. I see how it is. I don't have a fancy adrenaline lab to use them like some people do.
that last turn feels a lot more conservative
Junk a
from Maverick.
radiation. Get the Raiders over to spot 2.
Raid starting from University here, so that will start to apply a little bit of pressure to Maverick, even if University can't develop to the board. But I wonder if some of the more gung-ho aggressive play we saw from Maverick
draw a
in game
card.
1, since it didn't go his way, maybe he's pulling back just a little bit and being a little more conservative with his resources here in game 2. Certainly turn 1 with that mutant play didn't feel like it, but
For 1, we'll play an interrogate. Draw 4, and I'll discard 3 of those.
back filtration here for University. I don't know if you can argue that it was like a hyper aggressive play to commit 1 water and then chain 3 0 cost abilities together to kill
We'll
an
discard
entire
a
camp.
Muse. Discard a Napalm. Discard a Looter.
Man, what
I'll
4
keep
cards did he lift?
that one there that you just saw, maybe. Maybe you didn't.
I didn't. You're good.
Okay,
But
good.
but I want to know.
And I will.
It seems like Muse would be a really good
I've
card
got
in this situation.
4 cards and the water silo.
There's no pressure
4
coming
cards
from
in the
Maverick's
silo.
board.
Okay. You got some in the barrel. We're both holding back. No events, water and a card.
It feels like you could develop that Muse behind some of those injured people and potentially start getting really ahead. So what do I want if I'm on Maverick's side here? I guess another mutant. I mean mutant plus literally any junk injured card in the deck equals another dead camp. And which one do you pick off? Probably the scavenger camp because that's healing plus raiders. And the nest of spies is a little harder to hit the condition. Although I guess I'd rather clear the gunner rather than the muse if I had to choose between those two.
Do 3 for an Argo Yeski.
Oh man. And Argo creates a separate
He
punk.
gets a
Holy
he gets a
smokes.
buddy.
Now, Argo is the guy that I
Junk the
mixed up
silo.
Carly
Get an
with
extra
before.
water.
And he has
Play
pay 1, deal a damage, and all your people gain this
rescue
card's
team.
ability. Oh. And a little bit of protection for that Argo. I mean, we know universities also
And
holding a
we'll
group of
intern
cards.
there with yeah, with 3 cards.
Three.
I wonder.
Raiders move up.
Rescue
For
team
turn.
enters play
Like some water there.
ready. There's almost an argument for using the rescue team to just put that punk in hand. Like, I'm sure the ideal play that Maverick wants here is for all 3 of these people to survive until next turn and to be able to put 3 water into dealing 3 damage and just mowing through one of those damaged people all the way through a camp. But you got to think with as many cards as University has in his hand that that's not going to happen. And getting the extra, essentially turning that punk into card draw with the rescue team feels like it. It's probably the play I would have done, but Maverick beat me on his way to the finals, so I concede to his line here. I mean, if University can't do anything to address that punk, then Maverick will be proven to be correct in what he's doing here. Because if next turn he gets to spend 3 water and just kill one of those injured people and then fully destroy a camp, then obviously he made the right move. Imagine if this board state survives. Maverick pays the 3 water to destroy his way through one column, then has a discard injure for the person in front of the other column, and then plays another mimic. Or not a mimic, a mutant. Oh, I guess he's 1 water short. I guess you have to have a card to junk for the 1 extra
We'll
water.
play
There
an
you go.
assassin for 1.
Okay, so it's not gonna be quite so easy, but that assassin doesn't address the looming threat. So university is either gonna have to play an additional person either behind, probably behind, or in front of the mimic to protect the other side. Otherwise, Maverick can just chew right through that mimic column. Yeah, I see you there in the chat card. Yeah, we're
Repair
both kind of
bot for
thinking, man, that
1.
mimic could have bounced. Okay.
We'll restore the mimic.
Wow, things have changed a lot in 1 turn. Holy smokes. Okay, Maverick
We'll
may end
junk
up.
a sniper to restore the gunner.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to
And
be
since I
proven
played
right
2
here.
people, Nest of Spies, we're going to hit your punk.
Nope. Okay, yep. Of course, if that punk wasn't there, then that damage would have gone to the rescue team. Instead,
I'll pass. I've got 2 cards and a water silo in my hand.
yeah, I think ultimately I'm betraying my bias as a greedy card draw monster. Uh, and I think Maverick probably made the right call there because he's going to get 2 damage activations here. So he can fully kill somebody or damage both of those front row characters. Keep saying characters, I should say people. In Radlands, the people in play are called people, not characters. So there's some real threats on University's side of the board. The gunner can injure every unprotected character, which right now is just the rescue team. But if Maverick tries to go wide, the gunner can solve the going wide problem. The Healbot can stand any character back up that Maverick is actually able to get damage on. The Mimic, of course, can copy any character that Maverick plays and potentially get
All
value
right.
out of
Let's
whatever
see.
person Maverick recruits before Maverick does. And of course, the Assassinator you can pay to and just full on destroy somebody. So whatever Maverick does as far as building board here, University has the answers. He can destroy stuff that goes wide. He can destroy stuff that goes tall. That copy thing, like this is an ugly spot to be in. This is the kind of spot last game where I was talking about cards like Strafe, which I think we know Maverick's already committed one of his strafes, Famine, Radiation, potentially even Truce. Obviously, Truce is probably the worst of the board clears because you end up refilling your
Okay.
opponent's hand with a
I
bunch
think
of
I have
things.
a question.
But sometimes that's what you got to do.
Okay.
Let's say I junk. Let's say if I play a punk, could I parachute base the punk because it gets Argo's ability?
The,
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
I don't think so.
um, I don't think you can play punks when you junk for a punk. You're putting it into play.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's considered playing a punk or not. That's a good question.
Since parachute base is worded that you use its ability and that puts the person into play, I think it's got to be a person in your hand. It doesn't, to my reading, leave an opening for you to discard a card that you're junking instead of playing a card. So I don't think you're going to be able to parachute base uh, a punk into play because the
Okay.
parachute base can't see the punk. You know what I mean? It's looking for people in your hands. At least that I think that's the way we're gonna have to rule it for this one.
Yeah, I was just thinking because punks are people, so I just thought that.
Once they're in play, that's true. You're right. But I think the parachute base, by virtue of its ability playing the person for you, it's trying to look into your hand and find people, and the punk isn't a person until you've junked whatever the other card is.
So let's say, for example, I junked Veravosh just to reveal my hand, and I played this punk. I could not parachute base this punk because he gains Argo's ability.
So the way I'm reading parachute base is it's actually playing the card.
Hmm.
So with
Oh, I see what
Vera,
you're saying.
you're not
Yeah,
playing the card, you're junking
you're
her to
junking.
create the
I
punk.
got you.
Yeah.
I see now.
And if I'm wrong, if we run this up the flagpole to Daniel and I'm wrong, I owe you a huge apology. But I think that's the way it's got to be.
I see. I agree with that too.
All right.
That's weird. I've never thought about it till now. So, all right. Um,
Okay. So that's the kind of things that come up here at the final table. Weird card interactions that even seasoned, experienced players haven't had to come across before. I see what Maverick was trying to go for there. You junk that Vera,
the
you get the punk out, you're able to use its ability via parachute base.
rescue
But
team will hit Gunner with Argo's ability.
I feel like
The
Argo
Adrenaline
has to hit
Lab
the Mimic.
will hit Mimic. I mean, the Argo will hit Mimic. Yeah. Uh, hmm. And we'll do one for the silo. Sorry, that turn took forever.
No, you're good. You're good.
That doesn't feel good for Maverick.
Raiders will resolve. Card for turn.
The
Man, what do you damage here?
We'll hit Parachute Base.
Yeah, I guess Parachute base is the one that has protection in front of it for now. I cannot blame Maverick for really taking his time with that turn and trying to come up with some unconventional things to do. It's not often where somebody
A junk
has
a
a
doomsayer to
legendary
draw a card.
person stuck to the board like this and things feel dire for them. But I think,
Yeah, Mr. Ben, I think you know Daniel, if you could ask him that, that would be cool. I'm interested in that. And either way, it's not going to be a big deal, but I've just never had that situation happen before. It's university's fault for putting me in that situation.
well, we will get a
It's
ruling
a good
on that, but
question. Got me
I
curious
feel
about it as well.
pretty confident that junking a card to create a punk is not the same thing as playing it.
Okay. Let's take out the rescue team. Assassin.
Yeah, now Argo's just there for the taking.
Play a Vanguard for 1. He comes into
And that's
play
going
with
to
a buddy.
satisfy the nest of supplies
Junk the
condition,
water
and
silo. Since
Argo's
I
going to
played
take
2
damage.
people with Vanguard, we're going to hit Argo Yeski. And I'll pass. I've got 2 cards in my hand.
Oh no.
Water and a card. No events.
So the good news is, if you're rooting for University of Radlands, the not so good news is, if you're rooting for RevMaverick here, he is back against the wall. We need to see a big play here. I mean, I feel like it's gotta be something. Oh man, and they're all just too slow. Radiation, famine, even something like strafe, while it goes off with a 0 use of the event time track, all that does is clear a bunch of space for University to recruit 2 more characters and be able to use his Nest of Spies next turn. Like, I think Truce is, that might be the only way out here. And then that sticks Argo right back in his hand. Now that might be okay. Yeah.
Play a repair bot for 1. Restore Mr. Argo.
What do you do with that 2 water?
Junk a Carly to play a punk. Since I've played 2 people, I'll transplant lab my parachute base.
Okay. Some signs of life here. I mean, I'd like to see that last water go to some kind of a recruit. Gunner would feel real good. Maybe even tuck a sniper behind that punk and start picking off those back road damage dealers. If Maverick has to silo here with that last water, hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully he has something else to do with it that's more impactful than just saving up for next turn. Because if he's going to survive this bout, he's going to draw it to 3 games. I think we need to
Junk a
see
Vera
something here.
to get another punk out.
Interesting to spread the punks out across all his locations. I guess that kind of protects him from Nest of Spies. Although University can't activate Nest of Spies because he has no way to play anything. Or any people. But this could be the kind of situation where University could be sitting on like bombardment. Because he's under no pressure from the board at this time, so he's definitely got the ability to take a turn
How many
off, so
cards
to
do you have in your
speak.
hand, Pierce? 2.
Deuce. 1, 2.
Gotcha.
So he's only got he's only got 2 cards in hand. What could be real devastating? I guess Banish could
Uh,
actually be pretty terrible here for Maverick. Um, Napalm could be kind of
okay.
annoying.
I don't like ending my turn with 1 water on the field. Feels
Oh, he's
bad.
already holding his silo.
Um,
Oh. Well, then you
but I'm
throw the
going to.
silo and pay 2 to draw a
3
card.
card. 2 cards in the
No.
silo. Your go.
Cards in
Oh,
the
that feels
silo. No events.
terrible.
Draw a card.
Oh no. Makes me wonder what he's got in his hand that
With
he's
some
not willing to
water.
throw the silo to avoid forfeiting the water. In a game like Radlands, where the resources are so tight and there's so little margin of error on any given turn, being willing to sacrifice a water feels. He
All right,
must have
let's
that 4 water
assassinate the
already
repair bot.
spent in his mind.
Vanguard's going to hit Argo. You can
Bombardment would
deal a
be really
damage
good here
back.
for Maverick as well.
Let's hit the gunner.
Yeah. I guess it might not be just a 4 water single card investment like Mulgar
Potentially
Bombardment. Potentially, Maverick could have some kind of multi
pass. I've got 3
card
cards in my hand.
combo. I mean, he showed us that high ground strafe play, which
No events.
catches me by
Water and a
surprise
card.
every time. So he certainly could have something like that in mind. I'm
Junk
trying
of
to.
bombardment to restore Argo.
Oh, okay. Well, he had the bombardment, but is not spending the 4 water on it. Another rescue team here would feel pretty good because you throw it down, it comes into play ready, and then
Have
you can
the punk hit the assassin.
assassin for sure. Yeah, okay. The punk is able to do that because even though Argo himself is not ready, his cloud effect that gives everybody the pay 1 to deal 1 damage, that is in effect as soon as he's standing
Have the
up.
other
What do you
punk
do?
take out the assassin.
Yeah, that's probably the way to go, I guess. That feels so rough. Now, if you're sitting in Maverick's shoes, surely he's got something to play in front of that
Play
Argo to
1 for
protect
a
him.
mimic.
Okay. Yeah.
A junk Mustang to get another punk. And I got the silo in hand in the
So
Radlands.
he had every 4 cost card in the game in his hands.
Quite the little punk army you have over there. No events.
And then instead of playing any of them,
Card.
he junked them. What a
Turn.
crazy turn. Wow.
Water for turn.
All right, so University has to answer here with some damage. If he passes the board to Maverick with 3, potentially 4 damage dealers with that silo, Maverick is going to
We'll do a
chew
banish
through
for
that
one water.
whole board. Okay, that banish is for sure going to hit Argo next turn.
Scientist for one water, and then a rabble rouser for one water. And I will pass. I've got one card in my hand.
All right.
Those are all good cards.
Banish. I can see where this is going.
So now's the time to take advantage of this Argo turn because it's the only one you're going to get. And this does put Maverick
Favorite
kind
punk.
of at
That's where he's
risk of
heading.
having a very clogged board again.
All right.
Dude, it'd be amazing if he could spread some damage around and then truce and draw those punks into his hand. Then the banish goes off with nothing to hit. That would feel delicious.
Let's get some value out of these punks. What do you say?
I think that's the right call.
Punk will hit the rabble rouser. Another punk will take out the rabble rouser.
Get some damage on that scientist, probably.
This punk will clip the scientist.
Yeah, scientist is one of the best people in the deck.
Dunk a silo, get another water, and have Argo take out the scientist. And writing Mr. Argo's eulogy right now. Your go.
Signs of life.
Man, I didn't even get to do any science. Gosh darn it. Banish. Yeah, let's take out Mr. Argo Yetsky, please. Draw a card for turn.
So Maverick got a ton of
Collect
value.
some water.
He invested 3 water in that Argo, had to heal him twice, but it finally paid off with a big turn where he just threw damage across the board and just machine gunned down multiple people. This feels like the game has reached a point where it is much more even, and both sides have
We'll
multiple
junk a
lines
mutant to hit the mimic.
that could potentially present real threats to the other.
Get the raiders out. And grab the water silo. And then I'll pass. I've got one card and the silo in my hand.
Okay, so this
Water and a card.
This is kind of the breathing room turn that Maverick's been looking for. The camp is exposed. He's not under immediate danger from the board state. University's going to have to go through a lot of people to use the only damage. Like the Vanguard's the only damage dealer. It's going to take a lot of turns before he's able to get through to hit any of the camps. Yes, the raid is on the chain, but that's not coming in super soon. This is the sort of turn you look for where it's like, can I put some points on the board in terms of camp damage as opposed to just answering the questions my opponent is asking in terms of deployed threats.
I'll do.
What's he got?
See, let's do 2 to draw.
Okay. 2 to draw is not the kind of strong turn. So, as opposed to taking this kind of low pressure turn that University presented to get aggressive, Maverick is opting for a rebuilding turn here.
I'll do
which is also important.
one for a cult leader.
Whoa. That is not a character you see hit the board very often.
Junk a napalm to restore my mimic. And in turn with 1 card in hand. Here we go.
Cold
Raiders will
leader,
move
0
up.
cost, 0 water, destroy
For
one of your
turn.
people, then deal a damage. So this is one of the very rare situations where I think the cult leader could actually look really good. There's a lot of punks out there that can be destroyed.
Collect my water.
And with the mimic, yeah, Maverick is set up to destroy that camp or put some hurting on the board, depending upon what university lets him do.
You got one card, you said?
That's correct. One card.
I may or may not regret this. Two, we're going to truce.
Oh,
Oh
whoa.
man,
That is a
I did not see that
massive
one
card
coming.
draw turn for Maverick here.
Okay, so we'll see. We'll see what that does.
Okay, so what can he redeploy? I think University still
Got
had
a
a
lot of
Vanguard,
cards from one of those little punkies.
so I think he could
Yeah.
still pay one and get out a body in front of each of his two remaining camps. I think.
Vanguard for one.
He did have the Vanguard.
And then I'll pass. I've got four cards and the water silo in my hand.
Dude, imagine the pressure of sitting there knowing that at any
No
moment,
events. Water.
all
Oh,
Maverick needs is an injure and a mutant, and you just lose a camp. Like every single turn, University has to sit there and think, okay, I could be, I could be down a camp. Like presenting this board where there's one punk is just, it's not enough protection, knowing the combo potential on the other side of the board. Or it's got to feel like it's not enough protection. Now Maverick has to draw that, and we know there's only one more in the whole deck. His next mutant could be at the very bottom.
junk a cult leader to draw. He all of a sudden doesn't seem very useful. I don't know why.
Brutal.
Junk a mimic to hit your Vanguard.
Okay, well that play tells me he doesn't have the mutant to destroy the camp behind the punk.
Play a Muse for one, but parachute base her in and damage her to get a water.
Where's that water going?
Do three for Zito.
Oh my goodness. And does he have a card to junk?
Junk a high ground. Since I played two people. Use Transplant Lab and Restore Muse.
Oh my goodness. Does he have a card to junk to start the raid? Because Zeta would push that through right now.
And
Yep.
junk a Radiation to
Yep.
instant action Raiders.
Instant Raiders. Okay, we
So
will
Zetocon
hit the Nest of Spies.
makes any event, the first
Okay.
event you play on a turn, resolve on a
In
zero
turn, two
event
cards in
track.
hand. Here we go.
All right, my Raiders will also resolve.
Gotta imagine parachute
We'll
base is gonna
hit
take the
the
hit here.
parachute
Return.
base.
Yeah. Man, the pressure is really on. There's been some big flips in this game. Maverick came out with his turn one mutant play that full on destroyed a camp, and then kind of slowly started looking like he was going to get ground out of the game as University developed board presence, started to apply pressure, and then right when it was like, okay, this could be the last turn, this could be where things totally slip away, Maverick was able to flip the board again and start applying board pressure until University ended up having to truce his way out of that really unique punk heavy cult leader board pressure situation. Like what a strange board to see cult leader and being able to predict a mimic copying cult leader.
Since the Raiders resolved, I will restore Nest of Spies for 1 water.
That heal there feels very clutch for University. Like if you're in University's shoes right now, what you want to do for sure was get that heal up, so now both of your camps are going to require 2 damage, and you need to play at least 1 body, probably behind the punk. Probably ideally, you want to get 2 bodies out. Holdout wouldn't be bad. Obviously, if you get the holdout, because you can play him for free in lanes where there's a destroyed camp, you're not going to use him to protect your camps, but he's a threat because you put him in that destroyed lane and your opponent kind of has to deal with that threat, or else the holdout will start dealing damage through his damage ability. So it doesn't protect
Let's
the camp
play a truce
directly.
again.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. I love this game.
Holy smokes. What do uh I can't. I've lost track
Junk the
of the
water
cards that
silo.
are in
We
University's
will
hand now. I think he still has the
play the
Vanguard.
Vanguard again.
Yeah, okay.
Get another punk. I will
Oh, no.
pass. Little deja vu there.
Yeah.
5 cards in my hand.
So that particular trick is not going to be able to
Golly.
happen a
Okay.
third time
No events. Water in the
unless he
card.
goes through the entire rest of the deck. Uh, but wow. So 2 turns in a row, University just resets the board and then stacks up behind a Vanguard. I mean, you got to think from Maverick's perspective. It's like I was so set up. I had 5 people in play, wiped it away. And then instead of going wide, I went tall and had a legendary set up behind a very useful, like, Muse is one of the best utility characters in the game. I've got yet another really delicious board all set up, and here comes University trucing it all away again. Ugh. It's like you're trying to build a sandcastle and somebody just keeps kicking it over.
Play a Muse for 1. Parachute baser in.
Okay.
Get a refund.
Are we going to see a repeat of the Zeto play here? Honestly, that wouldn't be too bad. Unless he has another card to junk, I don't think he's going to be able to repeat the use of the Transplant Lab to stand the Muse up. If he's got a card to junk to throw a raid down range at University, that's probably not too bad. Although it's got to be frustrating when you commit your raid cards, especially comboed off something like Zeto, and then your opponent just heals out of it.
Play. Man. Choices. Play 1 for a scientist.
Yeah, it's a good card to have in play.
And let's Transplant Lab, the Muse.
Okay.
And we'll grab the Silo with 3 cards and the Silo.
3. All right.
So, if you would have just played the Muse, played the Scientist, and
What was
grabbed
your
the
turn?
Silo, that would have been in the same
Yes.
spot, right?
Great.
My
Just
turn.
wanted to make sure. No events. Card for turn. Water there.
You made me second guess myself when you ask if I ended my turn. I'm like,
Wanted to make sure.
I don't know. Depends on what you're thinking.
I was 95% sure, but just wanted to ask.
I appreciate it.
Hold out for free in front of the old transplant lab. Rebel.
Okay, well, that is a threat. I gotta think we're gonna see Vanguarded to Muse, and then Return Fire probably hitting the Vanguard back. Maybe you clear the Punk. I guess I don't know what Maverick's
Vigilante.
hand is exactly.
And Mimic.
Oh,
Since I played 2 people, we're going to hit the Muse.
that's better.
We can banish to get the Raiders out. I'll pass. I've got 2 cards. I am.
Wow, look at that board from nothing.
No events. Water and a card.
Okay, so we gotta see a Scientist activation here. Potentially, we're gonna see the Muse get killed by the Adrenaline Lab. What do you go for here? I mean, you don't want to let that holdout sit back there and just take shots, but it's going to take 3 hits to at least injure him. So we know he's still got the Zeto. It doesn't really, it's too expensive. Vanguard, just nothing deals enough damage. Do we have a strafe left? I think he already used one of his strafes. Strafe would be good here.
Well, Adrenaline Lab, the Muse to get an extra water. Play 3 for a Magnus Carve.
This dude and his legendaries.
Parachute base him in. Junk to hit the Nest of Spies trap.
Wow. So Magnus Harv being able to come in and get used right away just did a ton of work.
Junk a Rabble Rouser to get my Raiders going. And I'll end turn with 2 cards in hand.
All right. Raiders move up to spot 1. Draw a card.
Man, I don't
Collect
know
that Wada.
Like, I know you want to get to the Nest of Spies, but man, that holdout and that vigilante almost seems like a bigger, like a more threatening column than Vanguard Meteors. I mean, honestly, they both have to be addressed before you can put really any attention into camps at this point. We've kind of flipped again. Clearly, the board state at this point is favoring University. And even though he's still technically down on the scoreboard with one camp dead, unless Maverick's able to
Well,
find
let's
some
let's
kind of board
push the
carryability.
Raiders through.
All right, Raiders go through. What do you
Okay.
hit here? Probably Adrenaline Lab would be my call. I don't think you want to kill your parachute base. You've got too much value out of it. And
You left me
the
with a choice.
healing camp is probably more
Oh
precious
man.
than the lab. Then again, if Maverick's hand composition is
Yeah,
such that he's not going to be able to
that was
satisfy
good.
the two characters recruited requirement of the transplant lab, then it becomes much, much less valuable, and maybe you do keep the adrenaline lab around. So, not knowing what his cards
Okay.
are, kind of in a vacuum, I think you damaged the adrenaline lab here, but potentially you hit the transplant depending upon what your hand looks like.
They got the parachute base.
Whoa.
Okay.
Okay. So that tells me that his game plan next turn is to use the Adrenaline Lab on Magnus Carve, and that's going to be his answer for the holdout column. And he doesn't want to give University the ability to clip the Adrenaline Lab off entirely or remove his healers. At least if I was in University's shoes, that's the way I would read that.
Not getting any sleep tonight, by the way. None.
The adrenaline.
The adrenaline. The adrenaline lab.
It's fault. The adrenaline
Definitely
lab's
think
fault.
That's right.
I think if you're in
You've got me
University's
thinking.
shoes, knowing
Well,
how highly your opponent is valuing both the Adrenaline Lab and the Transplant Lab, I think you go after the Adrenaline Lab here hard.
won't need therapy
But
after
can he
this game.
destroy it? Hold out. No, he needs
Um,
something else. He's not going to be able to recruit enough characters to activate the Nest of Spies.
Holdout's gonna hit the scientist. Junkum used to destroy the scientist.
Vigilante into
Junka
Magnus.
repair bot to kill Magnus.
Okay, yeah. University just. This is big. This is a big turn.
Junkum bombardment to restore the nest of spies. Then I'll pass. I've got no cards in hand.
All right. Raiders
All right,
goes
Maverick.
up. Water and a card.
Can he do something like Zeto Famine this turn? I don't know how many cards he's holding. And maybe he already junked the Zeto and I just missed it, but I think he's still holding that Zeto from the first Truce play from University. I mean, so something like Zeto Radiation or Zeto Famine would be pretty strong here. Even just Strafe would feel decent because that's going to eliminate two bodies, expose a camp. I think if I'm in Maverick's shoes here, I I absolutely need to figure out a way to address that holdout because that damage is going to start to mount. It's cheap, it's 1 water for just a point of damage. You can't let those kind of damage dealers linger on your opponent's board or it just takes a toll. So this is a tall ask because really what you want to do here is you want to develop to the board and you want to address your opponent's board. And you've only got the 3 water. The kind of immediate, like bursty impact that the parachute base facilitated, being able to get somebody out and take advantage of their ability all at once, that's gone now.
Junk and assassin to have the raiders go off.
Hit Nest of Spies.
2 for radiation.
Okay. Unfortunately, the radiation isn't going to go off for a turn. But when it does, it is going to put the
1 for the
hurt on the
silo.
university's board.
Your go. I got 1 in the silo.
In the silo. No events. Card for turn.
Yeah.
Let's get some water.
I agree with you, Cargo. Every turn, I need 1 more water.
Get the Raiders out in spot 2 there.
So I don't think University is going to be able to close it out here. There's just too much to be done. He's invested 2 water in starting the raid. He can definitely use the holdout.
We'll hit the Transplant Lab.
Yeah, I agree. I would hit the Transplant Lab as well.
Then I'll pass. I've got 1 card in my hand.
All right. Radiation goes off.
Everybody dies. So the Punk top decks. Half the
Water
board
and a card.
dies. Half the board gets injured. And now you can almost totally disregard the holdout. If your opponent's using healing to try to stand that guy back up, I think you feel okay about that. So that radiation did give Maverick the opportunity to here kind of reset, and I think he can spend a turn where he doesn't have to worry about his opponent's threats. He
Play a
can just
scout for
develop.
1.
Every time I think one player or the other has really started to pull away with it, the board flips. This has been a really crazy game.
Junk a water silo.
Is this going to be
3
Gazzetto?
for Zito.
There he is. I knew it was still
In
camped out in
turn,
his
no
hand.
cards in hand.
Oh, wow.
All right,
Interesting.
Raiders move up to spot 1. Draw a card. Like that water.
I guess the thinking there is next turn you pay 1 to the scout, and that's going to immediately resolve the raid and put damage somewhere. So Maverick is presenting a truly threatening board state here with this 2 people combo. And if he top decks a raid, then even if University damages the scout, he'll be able to pull it off 1 more time potentially. It's not quite enough damage though, is it? And even if damage on the scout isn't going to be good enough, actually, he's got to kill the scout because just injuring him, the adrenaline lab is still up.
A rescue team for 1.
Are we going to see the holdout Vance to hand here? I think
Junk
we
of
probably will.
Veravash. Punk.
Oh no, he's gonna rescue.
Played two
Punk.
people. We're gonna hit your. Actually, hold on. Hold off. We'll hold off on that in a second. Rescue team is going to pick up a vigilante. Junk of vigilante to resolve the raiders.
Uh-oh. I think University smells blood here. I thought we were going to see the holdout bounce to hand and then get replayed, so he was in a ready state.
We'll hit the Adrenaline Lab.
But instead, it's the Adrenaline Lab. And now
Since
we're
I
gonna
played
see
two
one
people, Nest
water.
of Spies will take out the Adrenaline Lab.
Okay, so that's
So
one
raiders
less threat
resolved.
Maverick
I'm going to
has.
spend one to restore Nest of Spies.
Oh my goodness.
And I will pass over to you. I've got no cards in hand.
Same here, no events. Water and a card. We'll do instant raid with Scout.
I'll hit the
Imagine
Nest of
the
Spies.
Spies will get hit again. Oh. You got to feel for Maverick here.
One
Like,
for
how many times do I have to
Vanguard.
hit this stupid Nest of
He gets a
Spies before
buddy.
it goes down? I think we're going to see the Transplant Lab
Since I
healed
played
here
two
with that last
people, we'll
water.
Transplant Lab, the Transplant Lab.
Yeah, for sure. That's
And over to
absolutely the
you
correct
with
play.
no cards in hand.
Nice. No events. A card. Look, some water.
What do you do here? I mean, I think if you're in University shoes, you're not pushing for the finish. You're just trying to take control of the board.
And we'll use rescue team to bring this punk back up.
Oh, interesting to go after the punk. That
Junk of famine to your
that says to
scout.
me his hand was dead otherwise. I think if you had something good in your hand to play, you would bounce the holdout and play him ready. So no insta raid for Maverick next turn.
Spend one on a rescue team. We'll use that rescue team to bring up holdout.
And now we're going to see holdout come down again. And then Nest of Spies activate. And Transplant Lab. Oh my god. That's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to hold out for no water on the destroyed camp. Then
Out the
stand the Spies
raiders.
up. Oh no, paying 2 for the Raiders. Oh, University
Pass.
lost
I've
his
got one card in
Transplant
my
Lab
hand.
already. What am I saying?
All right, no events. Water and a card.
That's the scavenger camp over there on his left.
Two to draw.
Yeah, I got to imagine he's looking for a raid symbol. Although, do you do
Junk
that?
of Vigilante to activate instant raid.
So that's got to hit the
I'll
scavenger
hit
camp.
the scavenger camp.
Of course. I mean, I guess you have to. Like, if your opponent has the healing, okay, maybe they win, but you've got to try to deal the damage. You Vanguard here? If you do, it's gonna expose Zeta.
Do
That feels
a
terrible.
Zito play. Draw 3, then discard 3.
All right. Alright, so Maverick had, it looked like one card in his hand, so he's gonna draw 3 and then discard everything else in his hand. Exchanging potentially one card for one card. What would you want here? Probably not something that you're gonna junk immediately. I mean, an injured junk would feel okay. I guess no, not really, because he'll just rescue team it back to hand
Discard
and
a
play it again.
looter. See the looter. Terminator.
There must be something that he wants in there.
And interrogate.
Because if they were all dead cards, you'd keep the exterminator to take another pull at the deck.
And we'll end turn with one card in hand. You're good.
What he's holding?
Raiders will move up.
Strafe would be great.
A card. Some water.
I'm really impressed with plays both of these guys have made throughout
We'll
this
junk
series.
a scout
Wow.
to push the Raiders through. Since the Raiders resolved, we will restore the scavenger camp. Spend 2 to draw a card.
I think seeing that spend 2 to draw a card probably is making Maverick breathe a little bit easier. Like, okay. If he was holding something good, he would have played
Pass.
it.
I've got 2 cards in hand.
Yeah. So pass with
All right.
pass with 2
No
cards,
events.
but he's
Water
digging
and a
for
card.
something. Alright, I want to see a big play from Maverick here. He had 4 cards to choose from. 2 of them want to let him draw more cards. So that means the one he kept, out of the 3 he discarded, 2 could have turned into something else. So the one he kept had better be good. I mean, Strafe could eliminate the Nest of Spies here. No, it couldn't, because that won't kill the what are those called? The rescue teams that would just enter them. Instant Raid is just going to end up with the scavenger camp damaged again. Although I wonder for how many turns University is going to be able to get 2 bodies out there into play to be able to take advantage of either the Nest of Spies damage or force a raid through to take advantage of the scavenger camp heal. Like at a certain point, I think Maverick could very well be getting close to the
Do
position
1
where he's
for
going to
rescue team.
overwhelm available resources
Rescue
for.
the scout.
Huh, okay. So rescue team enters play ready, and then for free you can use their power. Gotta imagine we're gonna see a scout play here and then a
Play 1 for
transplant
a
lab
scout.
usage from
And transplant lab. The
Maverick.
transplant lab.
Yeah, stand that back up.
And
Can't
end
ignore
turn with
that.
1 card in hand.
If there's
Over
even
to you.
one turn where he lets that through, uh,
No events.
you could see
Draw a
University push a
card.
raid through, and that could be the end of the game.
Let some water.
Okay, so from university's perspective, I guess you kind of want to keep the raid pressure up because with only one camp left, you know where the raid damage is going to go, but also that puts you in the position to have your scavenger camp pay one to heal power active as often as possible. And that's pretty important at this juncture in the game, too. So, but putting 2 water on the scavenger camp to start that raid feels like kind of a big ask. So, really, university's kind of back into the position of looking for big board wipes. And we know at this point, both of their truces are gone. I think we've seen a famine go. A banish has gone through. I don't know how much good board removal University has left in his deck. And
Let's
this
draw a
board is
card.
definitely starting to slip away from him. You can't do any shenanigans with the double rescue team and start like bounce one to try to get to junk it for the injure effect, because then your camps are going to be exposed. And while the Vanguard is clumsy damage, if that Nest of Spies is exposed, you better believe Maverick is going to clip it with the Vanguard. Wow. 80-minute single game with dueling transplant labs, huh, Cargo? That sounds brutal. We're seeing something kind of like that here right now. I mean, even if University is able to get one of the cards, like Sniper or something, that could potentially let him get past Maverick's defenses. And
We'll use a rescue team to bring back a rescue team. Rescue team to hit your scout.
okay, leaving that camp exposed, huh? I guess you kind of have to, otherwise you know that insta raid's coming.
We'll play an assassin for 1.
I don't want to be late for work for Radlands there.
Chunk of high
That's so
ground for
good.
a water. A vigilante for 1.
Okay.
Chunk of high ground, and since I played 2 people, we will hit the rescue team.
It looks like University
I'll
said
pass. I've got no cards in my hand.
it's time to develop. It's time to
All
hit
right.
back.
No events. Water and a card.
So it's still fair to say that Maverick has more control of the board, but this looks much more even now. The assassin can start to cut through some of these guys. We still have to worry about it, or if you're on Maverick's side, you still have to kind of worry about the healing that could come off the scavenger camp. Even pushing through one insta raid per turn is just not a fast enough clip to force University out of this game. Yeah, Cargo in the chat talking about University holding a bunch of raid junk cards. I'm sure he wanted to get it set up where you could force a raid through and not have to deal with this board. Unfortunately, it did not play out that way for him. Well, unfortunately for him. I'm sure Maverick is glad that a raid wasn't forced through on him. So we're going to see a Vanguard activation turn here. I mean, that feels bad because if you activate the Vanguard, you have to expect that University is going to hit the Scout back to expose Zeto. But maybe that could do you a favor if that scout gets cleared out of the way. Then maybe Maverick's able to put another person there that stood up, and now there's 2 points of defense in front of Zeto instead of one, and you've got a full column of ready people defending your final camp. The problem you kind of have to deal with here is what do you do with that? Assuming the Vanguard's the only damage that Maverick can mount this turn, do you put it on the Vanguard to do, or the Vigilante rather, to do kind of a defensive play where you're taking out the injured? Well, then the Assassin's still there, and of course the rescue team can
Too
bounce.
many options
The rescue team could bounce that
and no clear path.
Vigilante, and then the University just plays it again, and you're kind of back to square one. Gotta do something here. Only one spot on the board that you could put any people into.
We'll do a Vanguard, hit your Vigilante.
Okay. So that tells me.
Let's hit your scout.
Yeah, that makes sense. That tells me that Maverick does not have the ability to do the extra injured, push the damage through, and kill that nest of spies from University. He's thinking
Play
defensively
one
here.
for an uprising, and it goes off because of Zeto.
Huh.
And because I
Yep, stand up that rescue
play
team.
2 people, let's restore rescue team. And I'll end turn with 1 card in hand. Here we go.
Nice. That was a good turn. No events. Card for turn.
Wow, this is so close here.
Put some water.
It's got to sting just a little playing Uprising and not getting all 3 punks out of it. But getting the ability to heal that rescue team up and protect all of your actual
Does
people.
it make you feel like a big person to assassinate a punk?
I don't know if that's the route I'm going to take. I'm going to assassinate something, though. So I'm going to pick up rescue team with rescue team.
Gotcha.
We're going to junk rescue team to hit the punk in front of Zeto Khan. And then the assassin's going to assassinate Mr. Khan over there.
Yeah.
And I'll play a gunner for 1. And no cards. Pass.
Oh.
No events, water, and a card. We'll do 2 for a strafe.
Okay. That strafe definitely chipped away at the board. Let me get something up in front of that camp, though. There's only 1 water left for Maverick. I mean, I'm sure he'd like to commit it to the Vanguard there.
Vanguard
just get that gunner out of there or stun that
hit your assassin.
No.
Right. And then
he's gonna hit the camp, right? Why wouldn't he hit the camp? Am I remembering Vanguard wrong? It's not injure, right? It's damage.
we're going to hit back. The transplant lab.
Yeah, it's damage. Yeah, it's going for the camp. That makes all the sense. Maverick has no water left unless he can junk for water from hand. I think the play we want to see from Maverick here, if you're on Maverick's side of the board, you want to
Rescue
see Rescue
team
Team
to
on
punk.
Vanguard, junk for water, and then play Vanguard.
Junk a
But
Doomsayer to draw.
if you are sitting on University side of things here, if you hear the word
How many cards you
pass
have in hand? None.
None. Yeah,
without a person in front of
I'm out of
that
cards.
transplant lab, you are probably
I'm getting out of cards. My deck is running low.
your
Or
ears probably start ringing
low
with
to what I'm
excitement.
used to playing. Man. All right. I'll end turn with 2 cards in hand. Here we go.
Oh man.
No events. Card for turn.
So can University, if he fields 2 guys, he can play Nest of Spies and win. If he, let's see, Scavenger Camp costs 2 to start the raid, so he'd need 2 cards. He only has 1 card, so that wouldn't work. So he needs basically exactly Vanguard. Because if, well, Argo can produce 2 cards, that would cost all of his water, and then he wouldn't have a water left for the Scavenger Camp. And we know he's only holding 1 card.
Gonna bring back Mr. Zito Khan for an encore. And I'll pass. No cards in hand.
Zeto returns.
Encore. All right.
Okay, Maverick has to heal here
No
right now.
events. Water and a card.
Playing people is not good enough. If he can't heal the transplant lab right now, University wins this game. Because Scavenger Camp, pay 2, start a raid, Zeto Khan's in play for University. That raid's going to resolve instantly, and that's going to destroy the transplant lab. So either Maverick heals here. If he doesn't have the ability to heal now, he's got to spend 2 water and draw a card and hope he draws into it. Otherwise, this is a game over. I guess he could rescue team the punk.
Do 1 for an exterminator.
Oh, that's not going to be good enough. I mean, assuming Maverick has the heal in hand, getting a card down in front of the transplant lab is important. So playing the exterminator here is fine. The problem is Zeto Khan is going to kill him with this energy with Scavenger Camp as soon as he says pass turn. If he can't, he's got to junk a sniper, uh, napalm, I think, a bombardment, something. Play a heal bot. He's got to stand transplant lab up, or we're crowning University of Radlands as BPR 4 champion. Man, this game has been so back and forth. There's been multiple times for each player when I'm like, okay, Mavericks clearly got this here. Oh, no, University flipped it. He's so far ahead now. He's going to win. Oh, just back and forth, back and forth. This has been wild. Credit to both players throughout this whole game. Both games.
Man.
So something that happens when you're playing really tense games is sometimes you get a little tunnel vision and you don't necessarily see stuff. Now, let me rephrase that. Sometimes I get a little tunnel vision. Now, I'm sure Maverick is a skilled enough player and cool enough under pressure that he knows he's got a healer. It's over here.
Rescue team, this punk.
But there is always a chance that you just don't see the forest for the trees. Or, I guess, the trees for the forest in this case.
play 1 for a wounded soldier. Comes out hurt.
Okay. So that's 2 characters, right? So he's going to be able to heal here.
Since I played 2, I'll restore the
There you
transplant
go.
lab.
Okay, that's what he had to do. Or it doesn't get much closer than that. Did he draw his card? I might have missed it.
And I'll end turn with 2 cards in hand. Here we go.
Wow.
No events. Card. Water.
I gotta imagine you pay 2 here. Insta resolve a raid with scavenger camp, maybe? Oh no, you want to be able to heal. So I suppose what university
You
probably actually wants to
will
do
use
is
Zedocon's ability to draw 3, and I'll discard 3.
so he's looking for a raid activator here would be my guess. So you throw everything that's not a raid. No.
2 cards, you said?
2, yep.
We'll discard a Mulder Stang.
So I see in the chat. Turn 1, play 1 of this game was not legal. None of us caught it. Holy smokes. It's incredible that we're sitting
Discard
here
an Argo Yeski.
90
Discard a
minutes into this game.
Sniper.
Okay, well, it is what it is.
Dunk a Rabble Rouser to
Sometimes in competitive
instant
games,
raid.
people miss
The
things.
Raiders resolved. I'm
That
going to restore
happens.
the Gunner.
Accepted board state by both players. We're going to go ahead and
I'll
proceed.
grab
But
the water
yeah,
silo.
Troy,
And
in
that's
chat,
all I've
you're
got in my hand.
absolutely right. That
All right. No
parachute base would have
events.
killed the mutant.
Water a card.
This is still the same game, yeah. Oh, I kind of missed university's turn there with the revelation that got dropped on us. Um, I'm a little surprised we didn't see the Nest of Spies healed that turn. Yeah, I will say this is a pretty atypical Radlands game. I've had games that were over in 5 minutes. I'd say the typical game is in the neighborhood of like 20 to 30. So having a game that goes an hour is pretty unusual, and having a game that goes 90 minutes is I don't think I've ever been a part of a game that's gone this long.
Rescue team wounded soldier. And junk him to hit Gunner.
Oh, you're so kind, Troy. Thank you. I appreciate the kind words in the chat there. And of course, appreciate any viewers of the content here on the channel. You guys are too kind. Thank you.
Do an
Hey,
exterminator.
these events wouldn't happen without the players. So give a shout out to all the people who participate in the events that we put
To
on.
take out your injured folks.
Can he deal with Zeto? Okay, so to refocus on the game where we're at, Maverick is in a really tough spot because he's only got 2 water left. and he has to be able to do two things with it. He's got to get an injury onto Zeto to get out from under the pressure of this insta-raid kill gun that's pointed at his head.
Vanguard to hit Zito.
And he needs to be able to recruit two characters or junk a
And let's hit
card.
your rescue team.
Bye-bye rescue team. Or junk a card to heal that transplant lab.
Junk a Pyro to take out Zito.
Oh, okay. Gotta be breathing a little easier on the Maverick side of the board now.
And how many cards you have? Just the silo?
Just the silo. Yeah.
Just the silo. It's more than just the silo. We'll do one for a banish.
Okay.
And you're good. I got one card in hand.
So that banish
Alright, no
might go off
events.
and hit nothing.
Card.
But if it does, it essentially acts as a time walk for Maverick here, where it's going to make University kind of skip his turn. Like, you absolutely
We
want to
will
develop
do an
cards
interrogate
here.
to draw 4.
Arguably, if you're in University's shoes, you not only do you want to develop, you want to develop two characters and then have one water left over for Nest of Spies to deal with possibly
We'll discard
Vanguard
a
or maybe
Pyromaniac.
hit the
Discard a Mimic.
Exterminator just to clear the way
Discard
towards...
a Carly Blaze.
Wow.
We'll spend 2 to do a strafe. And then I'll pass. I've just got the water silo in my hand.
All right. Banish
Every
goes off.
time.
Lots of damage now.
Every time I think
Water
somebody's
and a card.
finally like flipped the board for the last time, they flip it again. This game has been unbelievable. So I think what Maverick wants to do here is recruit two dudes and stand up his transplant lab. That's got to be the play. Like, yeah, it's got to be tempting to try to figure out a way to force some damage through, but I don't know what you could play this turn that you'd be able to also attack with this turn. So if you're not in a position to put any damage onto camps, and I don't think Maverick is, then he's absolutely
Two to
you got to
draw.
stand your transplant lab up. Oh no.
Play a Power Maniac for 1. And in turn with 2 cards in hand. You're good.
Man, at this point, it's been so long, and we've seen
Alright,
so
no
many cards
events.
from both
Draw a
players.
card.
I'm not even sure who has healbots left at this point.
Collect some water. We're going to draw a card. Alright, we'll use the water silo. Play a wounded soldier. Draw a card.
Interesting protecting the scavenger camp.
Comes out injured.
I guess the raid is the more important ability at this point. As much as it's nice to use Nest of Spies to get a 1-cost deal of damage, I think University's probably looking at the reality that
One
he
for
may not be
scout.
able to flip the board again, and that this game may all come down to can he
I'll
time
pass.
his
I've got
raid
1 card in my hand.
to connect when the transplant lab
Alright.
is still injured.
No events. Water and
I mean,
a
this is
card.
turn after turn where Maverick has failed to stand that transplant lab up. So not only is he not drawing cards that he could junk for the heal effect, he hasn't been able to put together 2 recruits in a turn for the transplant lab to heal itself. Got to be feeling the pressure.
Junk a Truce to hit the scout.
Yeah, clearly
Junk a
Maverick
Mimic
is,
to take out the scout.
he is hip to the idea that University is abandoning.
Pyro will take out the Nest of Spies.
Holy smokes. It's going to get a draw off that. And
Dude,
we
a
are now down to
draw.
a one camp game for each player.
You know what? Want to end turn with 2 cards in hand. Here we go.
2 in hand. Events. Draw a card. Collect some water. Draw a card.
I wonder if Maverick is being maybe a little too comfortable with that camp sitting
Play a
injured for so
looter.
long. I mean, clearly University hasn't been able to punish him for it. He hasn't been able to capitalize on it and even threat a raid coming through. I just know if I was sitting in Maverick's side of the table, I would be clenched up, tense that I had not been able to restore my camp when there's a raid activator camp looking me down on the other side of the board.
Like a scientist for the Raiders. I'll pass. I've got 1 card in my hand.
Okay. Now the clock is
Alright.
really on. The threat's no
No
longer
events.
hypothetical.
Card.
Maverick can see if he can't heal his transplant lab in 2 turns, and realistically 1 turn. If he passes the board state back to University, University is going to advance his raid at the start of his turn, and then he's going to pay 2 to the scavenger camp, and that's going to be all she wrote.
Play 1 for Doomsayer.
Excellently timed. Has Maverick been sitting on that Doomsayer, like knowing that the raid is coming? Yeah, I see you in the chat. Yeah, this is past my bedtime right now, for sure.
Chunk of Famine to hit your Wounded Soldier. One for the Assassin, and then I'll Transplant Lab. The Transplant Lab.
He gets there.
0 cards in hand. Radlands, your guy.
Just move up to 2. A card.
Just by the narrowest of
Some
margins.
water.
Gosh, so if you're sitting there, the way I commented earlier about how Maverick must be so frustrated about trying to clip that Nest of Spies off University's side of the board as he healed it over and over and over again. And now here we are, Transplant Lab stood itself up one more time. While the board certainly looks a lot more threatening from Maverick's side, we've seen University navigate these negative position board states before. Unfortunately, that Doomsayer coming down may be all she wrote. We're going to have to get injuries onto the
Like a
Assassin.
cult leader to draw a card.
Yeah, as long as University can damage the Assassin here, he's not under immediate, like, next turn kill pressure. Wait, yeah, he is, because of the looter.
Play a
Although that
wounded
require 4
soldier
water.
to draw a card.
Okay, that'll also protect him.
He's damaged.
So if Maverick had a junk for injure to clear the wounded soldier, 2 water to the assassin to clear the looter, and then 2 more water. So you'd need to have a junk for water card as well to the Doomsayer. Actually, what's the pyro cost? Is the pyro 2? I cannot find my copy of Pyromaniac. No, he only costs one. So yeah, it would be a 4 water play, which is doable depending upon the composition of Maverick's hand, but it does require a few pretty specific cards. I mean, you got to spare thought to who's trying to push that raid through because that by itself would kind of neutralize the Doomsayer.
Draw a card for 2. I'll pass. I've got 3 cards in my hand.
University
cards,
building
okay.
his grip back up.
No events. Water and a card.
I mean,
See,
we could just
Doomsayer to
see
take out your wounded soldier.
and an assassin to kill the looter.
Assassin to take out your looter.
That might be the whole turn, but whew, that leaves University in a very, very vulnerable spot.
I'll end turn with 1 card in hand.
Yep.
Raiders move up. Card for turn. Collect my
What
water.
University draw to get out of this here?
The famine will hit the assassin. Push the raiders through.
And he's got 3 cards left.
Last water
Think he
for a
will get
scout.
rid? No. Get something down to protect the scout. I mean, he's got to want to get something down to protect the scout.
I'll pass. I've got 2 cards in my hand.
Brutal.
All right. No events. Water and a card.
Now, Maverick's in the position where he can't recruit 2 characters to activate the transplant lab. So if it's 2 water to scavenger camp, 1 water to
Jump the
scout,
gunner
that
to
can get
restore the
all
transplant
University
lab.
would need is 1 raid activator in hand, and that's game. Or if Maverick uses his turn to go after scout, 2 water onto the scavenger
To
camp,
draw.
and then 2 raid activators in hand. On the other hand, Maverick, I mean, he'd almost need injure to get the scout
Drunken
out of the way.
Uprising to hit your scout. And how many cards do you have in hand?
2.
2.
So I'm sure Maverick is in a position here where it's like, can I just get 1 more damage into the scout and then use like the pyro? Like he's so close.
Play 1 for a famine. And I'll end my turn. There you go.
Now that's an interesting play. That's a board control card that would clear a bunch of people off. And with Maverick being in the more dominant
You have
board
no cards?
control position,
No cards.
it seemed like maybe a counterintuitive
No
play.
events.
But what it
Card for
does do
turn.
is it could potentially open up Maverick's line to play multiple cards in 1 turn.
Do
If he's able
that.
to do that, then he can use Transplant Lab to heal. And more importantly, it'll get that Doomsayer back to his hand. And clearly, University is relying on raids to try to finish that camp off, which makes that Doomsayer that much more valuable.
3 for a Magnus. I'll pass.
Magnus card
2
makes
cards in hand.
another appearance.
Famine goes off.
Okay, so what am I saying? Back to hand. Sorry, it's past my
Water and a
bedtime. I
card.
confused Famine with Truce. Those cards are not going to go back to hand. They all get KO'd. So that Doomsayer isn't coming back. Uh, Maverick needs damage here for sure. He's got to get that Magnus card offline.
Two to draw.
Oh no.
One for a sniper. And in turn with one card in hand.
What? Why wouldn't the sniper be?
Oh, that's card for turn.
Oh, because he's playing around Magnus card, of
Some
course.
water. A junk uprising to hit your sniper. Magnus is going to hit your Pyromaniac row. Play a Cult Leader in front of him. I'll pass. I've got one card in hand.
All right. No events. Water a card.
So I've got that feeling again, where I'm like, oh, okay, we're closing in on the end. University is clearly in control now. But every time I've gotten this feeling this game, the other players flip the board.
Play one for repair bot.
Gotta heal the camp, right?
Repair the transplant lab.
Yeah.
Do two for a napalm. You're good.
All right. No events. Draw a card.
This is incredible.
I was going to hit your Pyromaniac row.
Yeah. I missed that one up.
Cult Leader can destroy himself, and we'll take out the transplant lab.
Look at
Good
the
game.
Cult Leader.
Wow.
Good game.
Wow.
Man.
Very good game.
Gentlemen, that was impressive.
Yeah. The only thing repair bot should have been right there. That would have been better. But yeah. Oh man. Good one.
Good game.
Well,
Good games.
congratulations, University.
Congratulations.
Of course, getting to the final table is good too. So, in a way, congratulations to both of our finalists, but of course, crowning the champion. Thanks to all the players who participated in season 4 of our Radlands competition here. Um, I guess before we shut down here, Maverick, is there anything you want to plug, promote, or shout out here at the end of the stream?
Yeah, I just want to thank, Build Phase for hosting these tournaments. Mr. Ben, you always do a great job. And, I found some really good friends on this server, University and Extra Cargo, that's actually we've actually had to build a friendship beyond this play mat right here. So um, I'm a winner either way, I guess. It may be cheesy to say, but it's true. But yeah, I really enjoyed this tournament, and thank you for running it.
Well, cool, man. Thank you. And, again, congratulations on making it all the way to the finals. And I'll give the closing word to our champion here, University of Radlands. Is there anything you want to plug, promote, or shout out before we sign off?
Yeah, just thank you again, Mr. Ben and Build Phase for hosting these and throwing these. I want to thank my opponent Maverick for joining back in the fray, and it's always a pleasure playing against you, especially here in the finals. And then I guess for plugging, you can visit my YouTube channel, University of Radlands, to find other live matches and other hard tutorials. So thanks again. I appreciate it.
All right. And with that, I think we're going to sign off because it's probably past everybody's bedtime at this point. Have a good night, gentlemen.
Thanks,
You
Mr.
too.
Ben.
Thanks.